Hello and welcome to BK Live. Thank you so much for joining us for our first show of the new year. We're so happy that you're here, and we're happy that Jamie Younger's back.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Good.
I went on a long trip to Vietnam back, and you just got back from LA.
I did. I just arrived this morning, and I'm fighting the urge to say I just flew in and boy, are my arms tired. But
wow.
How are your arms after this little activity?
Obviously it snowed, and I love to cross-country ski, so I got out in Prospect Park, skied for 3 hours, followed it up with 2 hot chocolates back to back. It was really nice.
I'm telling you, I didn't know if it was Park Slope or Park City. You guys had some nice powder here.
It was so beautiful. It really was nice.
It was beautiful in California too, but all of my pictures are of me either shirtless on the beach or drinking wine, so they will not be up on that.
Okay.
No, not today.
All right.
But of course, we have a new mayor and a new city administration, and we'll be watching how that all develops over the next few months and years. But coming up, we'll discuss what other stories we should expect to be following this year. We've asked 3 of Brooklyn's best journalists to play prognosticator for the day.
And we also have Michael Bellamy and John Torrenley of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle catching us up on local sports. And then we finish with finishing school because it's Monday, and that means Monday Manners with Philippa Moorish. Today she is going to teach the 2 of us and you guys out there how to present our best selves for 2014.
But before we get into all that, Jamie's going to present her best self with charm and poise, I'm sure, as she takes us for a walk around the blog.
Okay, well, we start with a small item that could have some larger implications. DNA Info reports that a designer of handmade women's clothing has found a new retail space. Well, what's the big deal? Well, after 9 years of moving her shop from location to location, Cassandra Ackerman finally got priced out of Williamsburg and Bushwick and has moved her shop, called Mandate to Heaven, to Manhattan. It's only a 300 square foot space, but she couldn't find anything comparable in Brooklyn for less than $2,000 a month. So she picked up her sewing machine and moved to Essex Street on the Lower East Side. Realtors quoted by DNA Info confirmed that Bushwick is getting expensive and that the area south of Delancey Street has become more and more popular with small retailers. Ackerman not only found the prices better, but in what sounds like a comment about Brooklyn not so long ago. She said, "I like the neighborhood for the young experimental stuff, the art going on, and I love the history, I love the architecture." Well, we're on the subject of a changing Brooklyn. How about what Curbed.com calls one of the biggest architectural fads of 2013? That's modular construction using shipping containers, which we're seeing at the tower going up at Atlantic Yards, but it's also being used in private homes like the one that the firm Lot EK is building at Monitor and Richardson Streets in Williamsburg, which consists of 21 stacked steel containers. The house is built on a diagonal slant and includes a private interior garage, which I'm sure is lovely right about now, and a lap pool and a barbecue pit. So after a big snowstorm, maybe they'll be able to ski down the roof. In case you have forgotten, this coming Wednesday, January 8th, would have been Elvis Presley's 78th birthday. The Brooklyn paper tells us that Bushwick's first, quote, professional concert hall, called Radio Bushwick, is holding an Elvis birthday tribute extravaganza that night. At the new venue on Wyckoff Avenue between Troutman and Star, 4 bands will cover Presley songs. Headlining is the rockabilly band Screamin' Rebel Angels, whose leader says early Elvis is the gateway drug to rockabilly, and we're trying to give the audience just a taste and hope they get hooked. Along with the costume contest, there will be an Elvis pelvis dance-off, which we fully expect Brian to win going away.
Listen, you got to be in it to win it, so bring it, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We'll see you at the dance-off.
Yeah, it'll be really fun.
Well, before we get our pelvises in motion, we're going to have a little review of the big Brooklyn stories that we should expect to be following this year, 2014, of course. So we'll be right back with that.
Be right back.
We're so happy you're here. This is what the music sounds like in the future. We are in harmony with what is around us. All the cities have been covered over, and the buildings carried away by the ocean waves. harsh reality astounds me, and I know you better keep on doing just what you are doing. So the oceans will rise. I know it saddens you, but wipe your eyes. It's beautiful without your civilization. Yes, this is what the music sounds like in the future. Our lives are completely simplified. We are in harmony with what is around us. For we realize it's the only way for us to survive, and you taught us that. You taught us that. You taught us that. You
All right, so welcome back. Aside from that tall guy from Park Slope taking over Gracie Mansion, what else will we be following in 2014? We've asked 3 longtime observers of Brooklyn politicals and social landscape to join us today and give us their picks for the most significant stories in the upcoming year. Now, let me reintroduce you to Jarrett Murphy, the editor-in-chief of City Limits and Brooklyn Bureau, one of our favorite people who stopped by. Thanks for coming.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. And Kenton Kirby, the editor-in-chief at Caribbean Life. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Kirby.
Pleasure being here.
And another first-timer at the table, welcome Will Brederman from the Brooklyn paper, where he's a reporter and columnist there.
Thanks so much for having me.
So it's 2014.
Yeah.
We're just days in, new borough president, new mayor, lots of new city council people and all that jazz. So what are the sort of things that come to the front of your minds as we go into this year?
What are the big stories that you're excited about?
Start us off, Will.
For me personally, right now, my column went live today. Talked a little bit about these vacant assembly seats that we've got right now.
On the state level.
At the state level, Brooklyn has 3 vacant assembly seats. 3 assembly members stepped down to join the city council. Rafael Espinal, Inez Barron, Alan Mizell. And there's sort of a catch-22 situation right now because either there can be a special election to fill these seats, in which the people already in power get to select the new council member, or there can be an open primary in September and a general in November, in which case people have to go a year without having a member in the an assembly member. From January when the assembly members step down to January of 2015 when the new person will take office. So it's a catch-22, and catch-22, of course, actually means they can do whatever they want to you.
Well, I know in the case of the Barons, right, they just want to, hey, let's keep the stationary. We'll swap out a city council member for an assembly person.
And that's exactly what the guy I kind of addressed today is, they control whenever there's a special election, what are called county committee members get to select the new candidate. And in which case, in Barron's case, in his district, he's been there so long, the county committee members are loyal to him. He does have a competitor, Chris Banks, who's an anti-poverty activist in East New York. He is closer to the official county Democratic machine, but if Barron gets what he wants, he gets a special election, this guy's not even going to get on the ballot.
I think in addition to the question of sort of, which candidate the timing helps or hurts is how it affects voter turnout and participation. I mean, obviously special elections, our turnout is not good in any election, but in a special you get almost no one coming out. So, it's an interesting question Will raises between, giving people a year without having representation in Albany for all the important decisions up there versus the, equally bad outcome of having an election nobody shows up for that's controlled by party machinery. So, yeah, it is a very interesting dilemma.
So maybe that's a story of 2014. What about all of the, there's open seats there and no one who's representing them. They chose to step down and come to the city council level, but we just have a borough president who walked into the office unencumbered. And I know that you guys have written a lot about Eric Adams over at Caribbean Life. So is that the story of 2014? People wanting office or not even having to fight for it kind of thing? Yeah.
I think it certainly is. I think these are exciting times for people who have felt that they've been left out of the whole mainstream of things. It gives hope to those people who find that we're underrepresented. And the question of hope is the really big deal here with people like Eric Adams, even in the Mayor de Blasio, Letitia James and all that. So I think that we are looking forward to a period that is probably different from what it has been before, where people feel that they count, and that the issues are going to be dealt with, whether it's education, whether it's jobs, whether it's and et cetera. So I think New York, we can see New York perhaps as a city for all and everybody at equal level, and so it's really exciting to see what's going to happen from here forward.
Speaking of hope, I know that one of the stories sort of on the dock is Prospect Plaza and what's going on there, and that the community is supposedly involved in what's possible. Anybody have thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Prospect Plaza it's a saga, not a story. It's been going on for years. This is one of the only areas in New York that's been affected by Hope 6, which is a federal program to renovate decrepit public housing. Initially, it was going to be a renovation. They moved people out thinking they were going to rebuild and improve. It came to attention that was going to be too expensive, so now an entire redevelopment's been planned. And Will and I were talking before we came on about the fact that just the process to get to this point has burned through a lot of the money meant to establish the final development. And so not only what will be built and when it will be built, but also how much that will involve residents of public housing. Public housing, when they rebuild something, are supposed to make very good faith efforts to actually employ residents, where there is obviously high unemployment in the redevelopment process and security and construction. So I know people at some of the surrounding developments, Brownsville and the Van Dyke houses are out in the same area, are looking carefully at whether NYCHA is going to and how NYCHA is going to implement what's called Section 3 with Prospect Plaza. So that's a story we'll be following during the year.
The employment of actual community members.
Exactly, in the rebuilding process itself.
And I think the other big issue there, of course, is that there's only going to be, Prospect Plaza was a gigantic development, and they're only going to be able to house, a certain percentage of those people in what will be New York City Housing Authority housing, as opposed to a number of them will receive, affordable or, not market rate units, but units that are certainly more expensive than the ones they used to be getting. And just to kind of revisit what Jared talked about a bit here, is yes, they got $148 million from the federal government to rehabilitate this area, and only $17 million. $131 million, was spent evacuating these people, housing these people. I believe they hired security guards to guard the vacant buildings, which are, falling apart. But there's a big question: is what in the name of God they do with $131 million?
Yeah. Wow.
Yes, it comes right back to the question of the mayoral campaign, where it has always been the question of having a tale of two cities. And so everyone, I'm sure no one is against, the folks who are the higher end, who have been reaping most of the benefits, wouldn't feel sort of robbed or disenfranchised. The fact is that I think there's a whole issue of really understanding what needs to happen so that we can bring everyone into the fold. And so it is a time of great hope in New York City, and we hope that you're going to see, I think, significant change so that we bring everyone to the table.
On that sort of change initiative, we've gotten a new borough president after a long time in the form of Eric Adams, so an Adams-Reyna team with Diana Reyna as the BP now. What can we expect from them? We know that Marty was a big bolster for Brooklyn, but what are you guys expecting from the new administration? What sort of direction do you think? the new
I think
VP?
Eric Adams has been pretty much groomed, for this position. He has been in the community, on Saturday mornings in Flatbush. He had his team doing work on the sidewalk. So we know that he's energized. He's well suited for the position, and we have a lot of hope. He has been groomed for this for quite some time, I feel, and Eric Adams is going to just fall right in where Marty has done a great job and to try to improve on that.
But Jared, is this job a step down, like frankly, from being
a state senator? I don't know. I mean, not having to go to
president?
Albany always seems like a step up to me.
Yeah. Well,
but
it's been a path like Marty followed and Golden.
it's true,
like,
exactly, exactly. No, it's a common path, and I think there's the man Eric Adams, and there's the position he stepped into, and one of the things that Marty Markowitz was able to do was take a position that really has very little statutory power anymore, very little sort of real world power, and really kind of use the bully pulpit function to turn it into an office that has some significance. And the question is that the pattern that Adams is going to follow? Is he going to focus more on land use or policy? How does he take this office that at one point in New York's history was very important, and then after they got rid of the Board of Estimate now is kind of a vestige of that? Right. It still has some power, it's significant, but it is not what it used to be. And how will he use that office not just to be as important as Markowitz was, but I think to your point, there is this greater hope now that we're going to solve these huge problems of inequality, people feeling totally alienated by where their city's been headed. Adams has definitely tapped into some of that rhetoric. And the question is, does an office like the borough presidency give him the chance to materially affect that? It'd be interesting to see.
And of course, the elephant in the room with Eric Adams is, of course, that we know he was one of those officials that was recorded by Shirley Huntley of Queens. We know that he was named in the investigation into the Aqueduct Racino scandal. We know the feds pushed Huntley to question him on this point.
And he steadfastly said there's nothing on that.
There's nothing going on the tape. And to be fair, Shirley Huntley was not able to get any kind of leniency on the strength of those tapes. So very well could be absolutely nothing there. But it is something that's going to be kind of hanging over his head for the first few months.
You think that's going to be a thing?
I don't think it's something necessarily he's going to have to address on a daily basis, but it is a question that hangs over him for the next few months going forward at least.
What should they be doing in the next few months, though? Because frankly, a lot of Brooklynites don't know Diana Reyna outside of her district, and if they do, there might be because of ties to Vito Lopez. They might see her name in the paper. But Eric Adams and Diana Reyna probably need to be shaking some hands. It's not like he had to campaign. There are a lot of people who are saying, "Who are these people?"
Right. I mean, as Jared got to, it's not a particularly powerful office. Marty Markowitz, the one ways he got himself out there was just of course he ran the concert series forever, and of course he just frankly showed up to every single store opening in the borough.
Right.
And block parties.
And I don't know if that's
Which is great.
Which is, if you open a 99-cent store, Marty Markowitz is there cutting a ribbon.
As he rightfully should have been.
But Eric Adams, he's got his own style. He's, doesn't have the same kind of bombast that Marty Markowitz was really part of his shtick.
Yeah.
I know a big issue for Eric Adams is developing food resources in what are, so-called food deserts. He actually has a plan for the Brooklyn Terminal Market in Canarsie. He's talked about a little bit. To kind of transform it from being just kind of a market to being sort of an art center and like a large-scale urban farming development. So this is this is a big issue. He wants to develop food co-ops. If he wants to promote this agenda, he's certainly going to be getting out there with people and talking to the.
And there's more than one. There's more than one model for how to be a borough president. I think Marty gave us one, and I think that Scott Stringer, who's now our city comptroller, gave another in Manhattan, which is to focus on policy. He had an excellent policy office that got a lot of people's attention, got a lot more press than a borough president normally does, and a focus on community boards, which are the lowest level but most neglected side of New York City government. It's where the rubber meets the road in terms of civic engagement. Using that as a way to get more and different people involved in their community is another way he could go. So there's a lot of different ways to approach his job, and I think he could come up with a totally novel one.
Well, speaking of that community involvement, Hurricane Sandy is something that lots of Brooklynites have a stake in, particularly in coastal Brooklyn. And there's a movement afoot in the city council to really direct those dollars and get people moving and work started. And Carlos Menchaca rode that wave into office, defeating Sarah Gonzalez, who's the incumbent, as a sort of Hurricane Sandy person coming to fix things.
Sure, I mean, but Menchaca not only beat Gonzalez in Red Hook, which of course was a really badly affected area, he also beat her in Sunset Park, which was her home turf. So that also speaks, I think, to a lot of some demographic changes, and just the fact that he had a really good ground campaign, which, to my understanding, Gonzalez really had none of. Yeah. Certainly, how are we going to brace for another Sandy is one of the biggest questions. I mean, the fact is, where I cover in Coney Island, there are still New York City Housing Authority developments that are still on temporary boilers, still on temporary generators. When we had the cold snap in November, a lot of them had their heat go out. Yeah. So, I mean, we're still, for a lot of places in the city, we're still actually in the recovery mode and not just in the rebuilding mode. So it's, yes, looking into the allocation of these funds, why this is taking so long in certain parts of this borough, is certainly a very valid question. I think it's one that a lot of voters are asking, and I think they certainly said that with their votes.
Well, Mr. Kirby, we know out in the large swath of the Caribbean community, like in Canarsie, that didn't get a lot of attention from a lot of the broadcast media because they didn't have the pictures of destruction, but folks like Assemblyman Nick Perry have been fighting to get those dollars and get those people included there. What's the experience been like in those communities?
I think that the community has always counted on the representatives, those of Caribbean origin, to go out and fight for them. It's a question of really the responsibility, perhaps, or the resources has to come from the city or from the state. But the community has always been behind the representatives of Caribbean heritage, etc. So I think that, as in the case of the mayoralty itself, that it's really a question of the delivery of services. We know that on the larger scale, City Council itself has to be brought into that, and the state has been brought in, and whatever federal resources. Because there's very little that the representatives themselves can do except to go there. And the community always stands ready to support, to agitate, to picket, whatever, to support their council members. But the issue of resolving these problems has to come from the state or the city, or et cetera, nationally.
Well, sort of as a summing up, I would love to know, other than these big topics, kind of a roundtable of what stories are most interesting to you, even if they are not, there's just a little seed there now, but what you find interesting, intriguing, unusual, that are sort of you're looking forward to getting out in the
You guys picked 5. What's the 6th that almost made it?
Yeah.
Well, what story we're working on now is actually about foreclosure as a tool to help tenants, which is kind of counterintuitive, but we're tracking a story about a set of buildings that have been terribly run, and a community group has moved a bank to allow them to foreclose on them, but a judge is actually standing in the way, which is interesting. Typically, we've covered foreclosure as a negative development, which it often is, but in this case, it could be a tool to bringing in better ownership for buildings, and we're going to find out exactly why that's not happening, and if that's a bigger, we're looking at it in one particular neighborhood in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, but it could be a larger issue and a larger topic or tool for the city.
All right. Well, we don't want you to get scooped by the competition, but what are you sort of digging into for 14?
I mean, to avoid, one of the things I think that Jared touched on in his list over there was, of course, what we're looking at with Ken Thompson coming in and taking over the DA's office. Right. And I think, the big question is, what's he going to do with these cases that are attached to Michael Vecchione, who was accused of, who was an assistant district attorney accused of prosecutorial misconduct, and of course with Louis Carcella, the police detective who was accused of coercing his witnesses. And early on in the campaign, speaking to Ken Thompson, he said he wanted to commend a bunch of these cases to the state attorney general. Now, when I talked to him again on primary night, he says, "Well, I'm going to have to revisit that." And so my question is, what are we going to see him do? Of course, all eyes are on him. We honestly, how much do we know about Ken Thompson? We really have not. We know he was a former federal prosecutor. We know he was very high ranking in the Clinton administration. Yep, and he looked into the Diallo case and as well as into the Fort Waco incident. But we don't really know him as a prosecutor. We don't know his style as an administrator. These are all kind of open questions right now. So we want to see. And is his first act going to be turning over a large volume of cases to the state level? So I'm very curious to see where that goes.
All right. So we invite you, Mr. Thompson, to come down anytime you get ready.
The Caribbean Life, we had shifted our focus a little to really shining the spotlight on the Caribbean people in the city, who are upwardly mobile people, who are issues that affect Caribbean folks, etc. And most of all, importantly, is to bring news from the Caribbean to Caribbean people in New York City. So we had shifted slightly over the years to be a Caribbean paper, shining the spotlight on folks doing things and a matter of that
So
nature.
turn us into a Caribbean station for 2 seconds now
Yeah,
and tell us what is the sort of #1 issue that folks from the Caribbean, upwardly mobile or otherwise, are dealing with now?
Well, they're dealing with things such as, making sure that the housing and the real estate and the education, making sure that we have access to assistance to education, but jobs and folks who are doing things. We know the entertainment aspect of it is one aspect that is pretty big here, but we need to keep these folks abroad. In other words, if there's anything at all that's important that they really need to know about, it is people. We focus on Caribbean people in different places, people doing things. So it's more people-focused, trying to show what we're doing, and so that we can, feel proud that we're making a contribution and a matter of that nature.
All right, phenomenal. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you guys. That was
appreciate
just
it.
fascinating.
You got us started
Really fun.
right in 2014. We'll be watching and reading.
See after the first quarter what's
Yeah.
what's up from
Come
there.
back.
All right, guys.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That was pretty great. Yeah.
Well, coming up, what's been happening in sports while we were away? I'm guessing a lot of high school hoops, but Michael Bellamy and John Trinley will fill us in shortly. But first, some brick house music from Burning Spear. Check it out.
But when the sun goes down and we move along, I will call on you. For when the sun goes down and we move along, I will call on you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? I will call on you. No cry, my brothers, cry. No stop, no, stop. No time to lose. Time to lose. We must go home sooner. Yes, we must. Yes, we must. Yes, we must. Yes, we must. For when the sun goes down and we move along, I will call on you. For when the sun goes down and we move along, I will call on you. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? I will call on you. No cry, my brothers, cry. No stop, no, stop. No time to lose, time to lose. We must go home sooner. Yes, we must. And I know we must. I know we must. Let's move along. Oh yes, women. Come on, women. Let's move as one. who was one for when the sun goes down and we move along. I will call on you. Are you ready? You ready? You ready? Are you ready? You ready? You ready? Are you ready?
First thing I'd like to say is Happy New Year to everyone here, and we are back here at BK Sports, BK Live, and joining me to talk all about some of the things that took place last year and some of the things that are going to take place this year is John Turnley, sports editor of the Brooklyn Daily Eagle. What were some of the major stories you covered last year?
You know, I think if you look at it from a Brooklyn perspective, especially where we are in downtown Brooklyn, I think one of the stories that may have been overlooked a little bit was the fact that the Islanders actually came here, the New York Islanders. Not only did they sign a 25-year ironclad agreement that they were going to begin playing here in 2015 into 2016, but they also had their first practice here during the preseason, and they also played the first ever official NHL game ever in Brooklyn against the Devils here. And I think looking forward into 2014, I think one of the bigger stories that we might have is the Islanders might actually get out of that lease agreement a year early and arrive here in time for the 2014-2015 season, which would be right around October.
Right, so it'll be wood and ice in the fall.
Yeah, why not? Have the Nets here as well as the Islanders, sure.
Okay, in terms of over the holidays, there was plenty of football action, especially wild card football, plenty of college basketball. And in terms of college basketball, LIU is sort of struggling right now because of Julian Boyd?
Well, they're 5-8, and I think actually when you look at the difficulty of their non-conference schedule, they've played well to get to 5-8, and they had some impressive wins. They won at Texas State on December 30th. That was their last game. Obviously, the big blow to their program now is that Julian Boyd, who's had a very trying career there, as great as he's been the Northeast Conference Player of the Year, he was the Northeast Conference Rookie of the Year, but he's had in the past, he had a heart problem that kept him out for an entire season. He tore his ACL last year and wasn't part of the run to the third straight Northeast Conference Championship, and now he's suffered a re-tear of that injury and won't be able to be with the team.
So this is a young man that has faced a lot of adversity since he arrived here on this campus.
Sure, he has, and he's also enjoyed a lot of glory, and he's a big part of the reason why they've won 3 straight Northeast Conference championships. Now the question is, how well will LIU play in the NEC without him?
When did he re-injure this during practice or?
Well, what
training?
happened was, and Coach Perry told me before the season started, that they were tentatively looking at him to return right about what would have been this week. So he was cleared for practice recently, and it was during one of those practices, apparently, that he retweaked the injury. Obviously, they did a scan of it, and they found that he had a re-tear. So this is the 3rd tear and the 2nd re-tear of that same knee.
That same knee. Which one? Is it the right one?
I think it's the right knee.
Right one. Now, in terms of his going to the next level, in terms of his basketball career, how does that look?
You know, I think if you look at the tenacity with which he's approached his rehabs and really worked his way back, I don't think there's a lot of quit in that kid. If he wants to pursue a career at the next level, I think that he'll do everything it takes, to go through that and at least give himself a chance to do that. I don't see his basketball dream dying as it is, because he's a very talented player.
And like his old teammate Jamal Olasaware, who's on that team last year, who's playing in Europe, you think the possibilities are in Europe, NBDL, NBA?
Well, that's really up to him. And again, he's gonna have to find a way to have this procedure now and find a way to come back and be active and be the player he was without retweaking it. So obviously it's a huge question mark. I'm just not going to doubt the young man's tenacity in pursuing that dream.
In terms of the team, the conference, as we go into the conference now, how, in terms of this team, look?
I think they're fine, actually, because they got a huge performance off the bench from Landon Altenberry. The last game out at Texas State, 22 points off the bench. And with Jason Brickman basically quarterbacking that team, I think anything is possible in the Northeast Conference for LIU. Remember, they've won this 3 years in a row. True. Winning it a 4th year is not out of the question. The interesting thing is, maybe their biggest rival for it is the team on Remsen Street, St. Francis.
Yeah, now that is a team that really has been playing well this year. And also their women's team. Let's talk about their men first.
Yeah, well, obviously they've won 9 non-conference games, which is a team record. Ties the team record. They had a chance to break up, but Columbia beat them pretty soundly on Saturday. Now, the big game is going to be Thursday night, right there at the Pope Center on Remsen Street. You're going to have LIU Brooklyn against St. Francis.
Battle of Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, the first of 2 meetings, and maybe we'll get a first look at what's going to happen between these teams, especially in lieu of the fact that LIU has been playing without Boyd. But give LIU credit, they've already played 13 games without Julian Boyd, so let's see how they play going forward.
Okay, in terms of their women's team, their women have really turned it around.
It's amazing. This is a program that was usually at the bottom of the NEC, not even eligible for the NEC tournament. Second-year coach John Thurston, he got them there to the NEC tournament in his first year. Right now, they go into conference play, having won their first conference game at 10-2. They're 6-0 at home. They've won, I believe, 4 or 5 games in a row, and they're, really ready to roll. I think they play Mount St. Mary's later today.
What do you know about this coach also?
Well, John Thurston was actually an assistant under the former coach, Brendan Milano, and what he intimated to me was that they actually decided 3 years ago, while Brendan Milano was still the head coach, that they were going to try and recruit players with a high academic achievement standard. And they thought this was the best way to teach these young girls basketball, teamwork, and everything that goes into being successful, not only on the court, but in the classroom. And now that those players are juniors, players like Alid Simpson, who was the NEC Player of the Week, and Jamie Vinay, who's a local product, now we're seeing the fruits of their labor in doing that. They took it on the chin that first year, which was Milano's last year. Last year, they took a little step up, and now, going forward this year and next, I think they'll seriously challenge for the first time for an NEC title.
And it's always in terms of college basketball, it's before Christmas and it's after Christmas. Right now, we are after Christmas, and we got the conference play. So it should be quite interesting heading into March also. So we got about 3 months.
Oh, without a doubt. And this is a season where it really picks up. Obviously, this is now a basketball hotbed. We have LIU, we have St. Francis, and let's not forget we also have the Brooklyn Nets.
And let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets right now, who seem to be on a roll to
a modest roll.
Two-game winning streak.
Joe Johnson did his heroics again Friday night, hitting a game-winning shot. He's an unfathomable 12 of 14 over the last 2 years in hitting these.
But Brook Lopez is out.
Right, and that's obviously the shot to the gut. Not having Brook Lopez for the remainder of the season with that foot injury, but I think Jason Kidd going with this small lineup, he's put Paul Pierce at the 4, which defensively you'd think it'd be a tough matchup, but Pierce has actually done a decent job of keeping other teams' power forwards at bay with his interior tenacity. I think once Kevin Garnett finally gets going, and I do believe it'll happen, I think the Nets will find their way back up towards the top of that division, which is still very winnable. I know Toronto had a very good month. Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Month. They're 16-16 now, so the Nets are actually still 5 games back.
And the team across the water, Manhattan.
Yeah, they're tough times, but they had a nice trip in Texas where they won 2 out of 3.
And they beat,
That's the thing about the Atlantic Division this year. It's still up for grabs.
Right. Okay, well, JT, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right, cool. All right. If you're an athlete, like, say, one of the Knicks or the Nets, it's pretty easy to guess what kind of New Year's resolution you made. Work harder, play smarter, win more. But what about the rest of us? When we come back, Philippa Morrish will tell us why keeping your resolutions might have something to do with etiquette.
When I was younger, I didn't want to admit I had a serious disease. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a normal kid. Because of my diabetes, I lost the sight in my left eye. Misconceptions continue to surround this monster public health issue. But the simple truth is, diabetes can often be prevented and complications avoided. I think if I had just been open and honest about what my challenges were, I think it would have been easier for me to take better care of myself. If you don't take care of yourself when you're younger with this condition, it will catch up to you later on. You're going to find the courage to manage this disease for the rest of your life by reaching out for help. Reach out to people who care about you. Reach out to people who know how to help you with this disease. You're not alone. Understand the realities of diabetes and know that you can manage it and lead a full, active life.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who do something, the people who take action, are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
So welcome back. We're right in the beginning of the year, and everyone's being very resolute right now. So
Yes,
James, did you make any resolutions this year?
I made only one, which was to complete a certain mileage on my bike by the end of the year.
All right.
Keep myself, nudge myself along.
What are you like keeping milestones as you go
Yeah,
forward?
well, I know what I need to do weekly to meet it.
All right.
So I bike, but keep me going when it's like raining outside. I have rain gear. I can get out there.
Keep us posted.
What about you?
I made a resolution to be more present, to be more involved and present, and like get my stuff together. No more TV for me outside of BK Live.
Oh. More present and also what, like less social media?
Just to use my time in a way that I don't feel like I wasted. You know how one day goes right into the next? Let's introduce Philippa before I go around. Everyone can see one of our favorite people is here.
Well, now, okay, of course there is a connection between how we stick to our resolutions and how we comport ourselves, to use an old-fashioned word. Luckily, it is Monday today, which means that we can get an answer to that question right now because our expert on manners, Philippa Moorish, is in the house. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
back
you
to the
very
resolutions.
Now.
Wait. Did you resolve to do anything differently this year?
Oh, my resolution.
Experty on us? Yeah.
My resolution is very similar to yours.
Okay.
To be very present.
All right.
And to expand. Expansion. If I can put it all into one word, it's expansion.
In what sense?
To open up myself to read more, to pursue more business opportunities, to meet more people, just to expand, generally. Because as we get older, sometimes we tend to shrink.
Yeah.
To shrink everything. We're tired of this. We don't want to do that. We get too comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. And so I want to expand myself more.
Let's resolve to keep each other honest then. We have the resolutions. Let's do it.
Well, we were talking about New Year's resolutions, and most people, a few years ago, if you asked, what's your resolution? Most people can tell you. Today, quite a lot of them say, I don't make resolutions anymore because I never keep them.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to hear both of you being on the right side of resolution making because it's more likely you will keep it, simply because most people, when they make a resolution, they make it, let's say, for weight loss.
Right. Gonna get
quite
healthy
a lot
this
of
year.
people say, well, I want to lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, whatever it is. And after 2 weeks of going to the gym or whatever, they drop out and they give up.
Yeah.
Because their focus is not on the losing of the pounds. Their focus, if you say, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? They'll say, well, my clothes don't fit anymore. I'm tired of feeling sluggish. Their focus is more on them and the problem rather than on the solution. It's just a matter of where your focus is that you will have the success. So because if your focus is more on what you don't want, I'm tired of these pounds, I'm tired of my clothes not fitting, or so on, then there is very little energy. There's the willpower, and they said, well, I don't have the willpower. They have the will, but the power part, the energy part,
Yes.
to make it happen, because it's the energy that makes it happen.
moving.
That's low because it's more onto the problem part. Well,
negative
I
part.
don't like this, I'm tired of this, instead of, so when I heard you say that I want to go out there, you're in a perfect spot. And with you in saying, I want to be more present, you're in a perfect spot, because your energy is where it should be, not on the problem, but in the solution.
Yeah.
So bring us around to how etiquette can help us get in alignment with those goals and any resolutions that you may have. How is etiquette going to help you get rid of those 10 pounds?
And all the other, so many people have goals. So how people.
Well, the goals, we have many goals that we'll start with, in general, goal making. Your emphasis, your focus has to be on the goal and not on the problem. And once your focus is on the goal, your energy will be there and you'll want to do it. If your focus is on the problem, that tiredness and everything will keep you down and you wouldn't go there. You'll just get tired. It will take too much energy. So you have to throw your energy into the goal. It's similarly, at the beginning of the year, we have so many people who want to attract a life partner. That's one goal that a lot of people go to. Some people, they don't have one. We have so many these sites, you know, the dating sites and so on. And every year, as the New Year's Eve passes, and some of them are alone, and they go back to the dating sites, but they cannot find that right person, that life partner. So that's a very important goal for a lot of people.
Because they have bad etiquette?
No, well, not bad, not bad, but etiquette is about projecting our best self. And many people, they're so tied up into themselves. Remember a few programs back I said, your first date is always about the other person.
Right.
Right?
Don't just talk about yourself. I had the talk.
Yes,
Right. Many months ago.
not about yourself, but even though some people might not be talking about themselves, it's the same principle because they flip it into what we call combative dating. That person meets them and it is, well, so do you live with your mom or do you have your own apartment? What are your goals for the future? That person starts feeling that this is an interview.
Yeah, an interrogation.
An interrogation, which is what we call combative dating, because subconsciously, that new projected partner, if we can put it that way, finds themselves bobbing and weaving, dodging the questions.
Right.
So keep it light. So many people involve themselves in this combative dating that there's very little time to just relax. And for that other person to just let go of their defenses, you know? So etiquette is about projecting your best self, but at the same time, you're not attacking anyone, whether consciously or subconsciously, because that is about you. It's about what I want, what I am looking for in you. So forget about what you are looking for. First 3 dates, forget about it. Just relax. Enjoy that person as a person.
So the etiquette would dictate that you are putting your best self forward to attract and meet their best self, at least for the first 3 dates.
Attract is the word.
Yeah.
Magnetic attraction, attracting someone instead of repelling them. Because whether it's a job, whether it's money, whether it's a date, the aim is finally attracting or bringing to you that which you want. But many of us, our methods are wrong for doing that. So when it comes to dating, just look out and monitor yourself. All of the young ladies and young men out there, we know you want the type of person you want, and the older people get, the more desperate they get. They say, I don't have time for wasting time, so they go straight for the jugular.
And then they do dodgeball.
Exactly, you know. But that just makes, that's
Not the right way.
not proper etiquette,
Well,
dating etiquette.
We've completely run out of time in the
there's
first
so
show of
much more.
24. There is so much
There
more, but I
is.
think the principle is there, putting your best self forward
Yes.
and attracting the positive things that you want in your life by projecting those things.
Projecting it, whether it's money, whether it's a job,
Right.
projecting your best self, whether it's a date. It's about, am I putting my best self to pull toward me? Or am I acting in such a way that these things are staying away from me?
Very true. Okay,
Put that in your pipe and smoke it for 2014.
that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It is a pleasure
That was
being
enlightening.
here.
Thank you. To more conversations about etiquette in the future. Well, tomorrow we're going to take a look at Haiti, which marks two key anniversaries at this time of year, the 210th anniversary of its independence from France, and the 4th anniversary of the huge earthquake that hit it on January 12th, 2010. We'll talk to several people dedicated to solving the many issues Haiti still faces today.
And since the natural hair movement keeps growing, the movement and the hair, tomorrow it's Natural Hair, the movie. In Our Heads, About Our Hair is a feature documentary, and we'll meet the filmmaker and one of the film's producers.
I'm so sorry that I'm going to miss that. I'll have to catch
You'll be
up to
watching.
it. I hopefully. And if if you've got something in your head or your hair that you'd like us to cover on the show, let us know at tips@bricartsmedia.org. And we will see you tomorrow.
Happy New Year. We'd
Happy
love
New
to
Year.
hear from you guys.
Happy New Year.
Bye now.
Bye.